Chapter 6. The night Peg went to bed peacefully, a rag doll in one hand, Whiskers in the box next to her trundle bed. In the night she cried for Ma, but Danny, stumbling through sleep to wakefulness, heard Olga's voice soothing and quickly comforting her. It was Danny who cried, muffling his sobs into the quilt. He missed Ma, he missed Mike, he missed everyone so much it was a terrible aching sore that burned in his chest. We've got to get together again. We've got to, Danny told himself. I'll think as hard as I can to work out a way. He fell asleep and dreamed that Mike was coming toward him. Danny ran to Mike, so happy his heart was pounding loudly at his ribs, but Mike began to fade and disappear. Mike, don't go away, Danny called. Mike, where are you? There, there, a deep voice called. A gentle hand touched his shoulder. Just a bad dream, Danny. Everything's all right. Go back to sleep. Danny reached up and grasped Alfred's hand, holding him tightly. He'd tell Alfred about Mike. Alfred would help him find Mike. Alfred's hand was warm and strong and reassuring. Before he could tell Alfred anything, Danny once again was asleep. In the morning when Danny came downstairs, Olga was preparing breakfast, bustling through the kitchen as though she'd never had a tired spell in her life. Danny sagged with relief. It was foolish to be afraid. Did you find your list of addresses last night? Olga asked him. Danny guiltily shook his head. Maybe it fell out of my pocket at school. I'll ask Miss Clark if anyone found it. Olga patted his shoulder. Don't worry, dear. If your list doesn't turn up before Saturday, Catherine Banks surely can get the addresses for you. I know that she and Andrew McNair have a copy. In the meantime, you can write the letters so they'll be ready to mail. In the meantime, there are so many things to do. Danny pushed the letters from his mind. The next few days fell into a comfortable routine. Danny woke early, helped with the milking, walked to school with Peg. He began to make friends with the other boys, found himself spending most of his time with Wilmer, who, on the whole, wasn't a bad sort. Danny practiced hard for the spelling bee, wishing Laura Lee hadn't chosen him to be her studies partner. Laura's Lee mother brushed her hair each morning with long sausage curls and tied them into a cluster with a white ribbon. The bow on the ribbon reminded Danny of a giant moth, and each time Laura Lee shook or nodded her head, causing the bow to flutter, Danny's first impulse was to swat at it. Laura Lee blinked her eyes and giggled when she looked at Danny, which made him uncomfortable. He wished there was someone he could ask why Laura Lee acted like that and how to make her stop it. He couldn't ask Gussie because she'd only tease. He didn't need teasing, he needed answers. If Frances or Megan were around, they'd tell him. He sighed as he thought about his sisters. It wasn't just for advice he needed them near. They were family, and he desperately wanted to have his family together again. But he wanted Alfred and Olga, too. Olga was kind, and Alfred really listened to what Danny had to say and seemed to care about it. He was strong and gentle and firm and loving and everything a father should be. Each afternoon, Danny would rush home from school and into his work clothes to help Alfred with whatever needed to be done. Danny loved the farm chores, but most of all, he loved being with Alfred. Gussie teased him, "You're a regular tag-along. You stay right on the mister's heels the way Whiskers follows Peg." But Danny didn't mind what Gussie said. "Mr. Swenson needs me," he said proudly, content he knew it was true. On Saturday morning, excited for the trip to St. Joseph, Danny woke up before daylight. It was hard to choke down his breakfast and even hard to wait for the others to get ready. He couldn't wait to see Catherine Banks, who opened a general store. She had been so kind to all the children who traveled to St. Joe from New York. As though she were reading his thoughts, Olga said, "Don't worry, Danny. While we're in town, we'll ask Mrs. Banks for the addresses you need." "I won't forget," Danny answered. "I'll give you some envelopes," she said. "Have you written all your letters?" "The letters?" Danny gulped. "With all I had going on at store, it slipped my mind." He turned to Olga, who was watching him. "Once I get the addresses, I'll sit down and write the letters, I promise." "I know you miss your brothers and sisters," Olga said. "I don't understand why you don't write them." Danny shrugged. He didn't know what to say. It wasn't that he didn't want to write, and he certainly hoped the others would want to write him. He'd like to tell Mike all about Alfred and let Frances and Megan know how gentle and kind Olga was, and Ma, he missed her more than she could know, and he wanted to tell her so, but putting words on paper was so final. If he wrote about his life at the Swensons' farm, once the words were written, it'd make it all come true, and the Callies would be scattered, leading separate lives, and they couldn't be back together again as a family. But they had to be together. Danny wasn't allowing himself to think for 1 minute that he couldn't someday make it happen. All he needed was to work out the right plan. Alfred came into the kitchen, tugging on his gloves and stamping his feet on a map. "Everyone ready?" he said. "Horses don't like waiting." Neither did Danny. Letters forgotten, he made a dash for the buggy. Alfred hitched the buggy in front of Catherine's store. He held out a hand to help Olga get down, but she paused, tilting her head up to peer over the crowd that had gathered near the store. Danny stared too. He couldn't see the man who was shouting, but he heard their voices yelling angry insults. The argument was over slavery, and it was getting louder. Someone in the crowd shoved someone. Was there going to be a fight? "Come on now," Alfred said as he lifted Olga to the ground and reached for Peg. "Get inside the store." Olga's eyes widened and her face became pale as she held tightly to her husband's hand. "Alfred, last time we saw an argument on the street, one of the men had a gun, and someone was hurt." "All the more reason to hurry," Alfred said. Suddenly a tall muscular man on horseback plowed through the crowd, and people jumped back, scattering out of the horse's path. "It's Andrew," Danny exclaimed. "Andrew McNair." This is a civilized town," Andrew shouted. "This is a civilized town," Andrew shouted. "The men take your brawls somewhere else. Get out of here, now." The crowd broke up, some of the men grumbling, some of them strolling off as though they'd already lost interest in what had happened. A stocky, well-dressed man hurried toward them. He rushed up to Alfred, stopping only to tip his broad-brimmed hat to Olga before his words tumbled out. "We're planning a series of meetings," he said. "Our hope is to try to educate the citizens against slavery. We must convince them what's right. The entire country will surely be headed to civil war." "War?" Danny gasped, but the man paid no attention to Danny. "Alfred, you're a man who likes to have time to cogitate," he continued. "If we have a little time, we've contacted with a famous political leader, Ralph Waldo Emerson. He's agreed to come to St. Joe to address us, and we're lining up other speakers. Will you come to the meetings? We need your support." "You have it," Alfred said. "I've never had a moment of doubt that slavery was wrong." "Good," the man let out a sigh. "We'll call a meeting soon. We'll meet in the assembly hall over in the wharves, and then we'll let you know the date as soon as it's set." With another quick nod to Olga, the man hurried his way. Olga spoke in a low voice. "Attending those meetings would be dangerous, Alfred." "It'd be even more dangerous to do nothing," Alfred said. "We have no choice but to stand up for our convictions." Danny looked back at the street, hoping to see Andrew, but he was now out of sight. Andrew had been brave to charge that crowd. Alfred was brave too, and Danny was proud of him. He moved a little closer to Alfred. "Where are we going to see Catherine?" Peg asked. "Right now," Alfred said, and holding Olga's elbow gently, he led the way to Catherine's store. It was a busy place. Clusters of people were gossiping about what had happened in the streets and examining the goods for sale. A clerk was rapidly tying up packages behind the counter, and Catherine was measuring off yards of striped cotton ticking for one of her customers. She stopped when she saw Danny and Peg and stooped to give them each a hug. "I have a kitten," Peg began, and went on to tell Catherine all her important news, winding up with, "And Danny lost the addresses for Mike, Megan, and Frankie and Petey." Catherine nodded reassuringly to Danny. "I've got them at home," she said. "I'll copy them for you, and next time you're in town, I'll have them here at the store for you. Will that be soon enough?" "Oh, yes, that's plenty of time," Danny answered quickly, though he had no idea where Olga and Alfred would be returning to St. Joseph. "I saw Mr. McNair," Danny added, and wanted to change the subject. "He stopped some men from fighting in the street." "So I heard." Catherine sighed and glanced at Alfred. "These are difficult times," she said. "Mr. McNair is very brave," Danny said. For some reason, Catherine's cheeks grew pink. "Yes, he is," she said. She quickly changed the subject. "Don't let that argument you saw give you the wrong impression of St. Joseph. You'll usually find interesting things, not frightening ones, on our streets. A few days ago we had a traveler fiddler, and I heard from someone who came from north from Springfield that sometime in the near future we'll probably be paid a visit by a medicine show." "What's a medicine show?" Peg asked. Catherine explained. "Someone who has bottled tonic to sell, something he claims will make people feel better. He sells it by taking it from town to town in a fancy painted wagon. It's important for him to attract a crowd so he can sell the tonic, so he puts on some kind of show. Last time we had a medicine man with a monkey who could do tricks, and it drew a big crowd. Many people here had never seen a monkey before." "I'd like to see a monkey," Peg said. "What's a monkey?" Olga laughed and said, "Come, children. We have shopping to do, and Catherine has customers waiting for her to help. We'll talk about monkeys and medicine shows later." "And have tea and cookies?" Peg asked hopefully. But the shopping trip didn't last long. As soon as they had picked their school supplies and Alfred had replaced the broken saw with a new one, Olga suggested they return home. "The fright this morning has tired me greatly," she whispered to Alfred. But Danny heard and was worried. Olga's illness, the fighting on the streets, the threat of war, it was too much to talk about. Alfred surprised Peg and Danny with paper twists of peppermint drops as they began their trip home. But this treat didn't begin to dispel Danny's terrible feeling of dread.